Moving on to some good news. And it's Brexit news. Woo! I haven't spoken about Brexit in a while. Um, my bread and butter. So services trade, which by the way, just to give a caveat to that, services trade, I think actually we shouldn't only be a services economy, and I do find that quite sad. But if we are insisting on net zero and all the rest of it, well, you can forget being a manufacturing superpower because you can't power a factory on a sodding wind turbine. But anyway, this is good news. It says the UK has become the world's fourth largest exporter thanks to a boost in services fresh trade figures have revealed. It comes after the UK ranked seventh in 2021, moving up 3 places in the figures for exporting goods and services in 2022. That's confirmed by the United Nations. Kemi Badenoch said these new figures show the UK is punching above its weight on trade and is on track to reach our ambition of exporting £1 trillion of goods and services a year by 2030. Now, I'll take you back to the EU referendum. George Osborne stood next to Liz Truss, believe it or not, who was Chief Secretary to the Treasury at the time. And George Osborne said, "Oh, it'll be a DIY recession. Everything will go to hell in a handcart. We'll not be exporting anything. Nissan in Sunderland will close. We're going to lose absolutely everything. Locusts will plague the country. We'll be eating out of I don't know what. Everything will look like Ukraine." I mean, Ukraine didn't happen back then, but you know what I mean. And he went on and on like this. Every organization with an acronym tried to belittle even the president of the United States of America, Pillock Obama, said that actually, you'll be in the back of the queue. Americans don't say queue, you arse. And all of this stuff. And it hasn't happened. So I just wanted to, before we get into the depressing sides of things again, I just wanted to give a big shout out to Brand Britain, because actually, whilst we are going through hell in a handcart right now, things aren't all that bad in certain respects. There are good news stories out there. There are good people out there. We are a good country, but we just need to stand up for ourselves a bit bloody more. Am I right or
You
am I
know,
right?
can I just say that this story reminds me of a story that I also was tweeting about today, which was the water companies. That was just a few weeks ago. All the lefties, the Remoaners, were out blaming Brexit for the state of our sewage spillages and all those things, which is a horrible thing to have happened, I have to admit. But just today, France, as part of the Olympics, has also warned Olympians that they have a similar problem. And I think I just tweeted, someone check that Gina Miller's okay. Because
Mm,
the reality is that these are not everything that goes wrong in this country is to do with Brexit. In fact, most of it has got nothing to do with Brexit. As you said, Darren, we were told we wouldn't be able to get paracetamol, for
yeah,
goodness sake.
yeah.
And that none of that's come true. We heard there would be wars on the border of Northern Ireland. I mean, none of this nonsense fear mongering amongst the elites has come true. And as much as people disagree, the UK economy is still going to outperform most European economies over the next 10 years. It's as
And
simple as that.
Chloe, the EU have, speaking of them, and another good reason of why it's a good thing that we did vote to leave the EU. After years of negotiations, the European Parliament have actually reformed a major part of tightening their migration and asylum rules. They say it's been in the works since 2015. It'll come into force in 2 years' time. It's designed to speed up the asylum process and boost the return of irregular migrants to home countries. I have absolutely no faith that that'll absolutely actually happen, because they're all under the auspices of the European Convention of Human Rights. So I'm afraid to say it ain't going to happen, folks. We have that power now, but the problem is our politicians are weak, they are
Mm.
feeble, and they're not making the most of it, Chloe.
Absolutely, you're completely spot on. And this comes perfectly into what I was going to say in response to what Alex just said. I think you're absolutely spot on, Alex. And what I would point out to anybody who says to you, "Oh, this problem we have in Britain is because of Brexit," ask them how other European countries are doing on that issue. And 9 times out of 10, the problems that people are blaming Brexit for are worse in EU countries. And
Mm.
migration just one example of that. The small boats crisis is horrendous here, but actually the figures are even worse in EU countries. And I was on a GB News debate last week where I had an ex-Labour minister telling me that one of the main reasons for this small boats issue is the fact that we don't, we're too separated from the EU, and we need more deals with the EU and more cooperation with the EU in order to solve this problem. But look at how the EU is doing on it. They're doing absolutely terribly. So why on earth would we cozy up to the EU, as Keir Starmer would like to do, in attempt to solve this problem? It's simply not going to work. When people look at the economy, they say, oh, the economy is struggling because of Brexit. Well, look at the other EU countries. Have they got thriving countries, thriving economies at the moment? No, absolutely not. So it really is just a cop out. And you're absolutely right that our politicians haven't taken advantage of Brexit best they can. I mean, not even close to best they can. This news you showed us about the services sector is good, but there are a heck of a lot of. We could be a heck of a lot further forward than this by now. I think that. I think that COVID, for example, was a huge distraction where we put everything.
Oh yeah, but that's over with now, and they're still not bloody well doing anything. Apparently, Hungary.
Well, exactly. There is no excuse now. And for example, we could have had a great advantage from cutting red tape and having a regulatory advantage over other countries, but we haven't really done that. There's so much that we could have done to make Brexit a success, but that's not to say that we can't take advantage of our newfound powers in the future. So I think there is hope in long term. Brexit is a good thing.
I don't know what our freedoms will look like under Sir Keir Starmer, but anyway, Hungary have vowed not to take any irregular migrants regardless of the migration pact, and Polish Prime Minister Donald Tusk, who used to be heavily involved in the European Council, rejected the proposal as unacceptable, and said that paying into an EU fund for frontline states, no, siree. Have you got what it takes to be a reasoned presenter? Well, send us a short clip of yourself to join@reasoned.uk, and we might be seeing you on this very channel very soon indeed.